my responsibilities are to set up training opportunities just like this today. As you are aware, we're going to talk about a very important active shooter, how to respond to those incidents. And Chief Terry will be doing most of the presentation, and we encourage questions as we go through this, and and we'll give time at the end for some questions and answers. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Chief Terry.
Good afternoon. I hope I have enough cord. I hate these things, and I like to move when I talk. Thank you for all for coming. We had requests for this. We're going to run through this. Lieutenant Parker's also with us. He's our active shooter trainer for us, so if we need to get him up here, he's here to make sure I don't mess this up because he trained me. The basic concept is run, hide, fight. This is the new concept that's come out from everybody, and this is what they're teaching. If there's an active shooter event, you have to make this decision what you're going to do, okay? It's not up to us. It's not like a fire drill. We can't tell you if something happens on this end of the hallway, you need to go that way, because we cannot predict what you're going to do, okay? And I hate to put it that way, but you're either, you're going to freeze, you're going to get out of there, you're going to hide, or you're going to confront the suspect. It's that simple. So we can't give you a blow-by-blow like a fire drill. And I'm really sorry for that. Profile of an active shooter. An active shooter individual actively engaged in killing or attempt to kill people in a confined and populated area, typically through the use of firearms. We're seeing a lot of you're seeing a lot of knife attacks now. The mall, things of that nature. If you don't know it, ISIS is putting out, because it's easier to get a knife than it is to get a gun. You can take a knife into a lot of other areas, so they're pushing for the individual lone wolf terrorists to use knives or vehicles instead of firearms. But most of the time when we talk about an active shooter has to have a firearm. But it could be an event with someone with a knife. You must keep that in mind also. Victims are selected at random. The event is unpredictable and evolves quickly. Law enforcement is usually required to end an active shooter situation. And our goal there, and several years ago, and the history of this, and some of us are old enough to remember Columbine. When that happened, we sat down and started trying to figure out what we were going to do, because that's the big event. There's been active shooters previous to that. There's been mass killings previous to that, but Columbine sticks in everybody's mind. We would sit down, we would talk. We'd try to figure something out. The old philosophy was SWAT. You just contain them, wait for them to get there, they'd make entry and do that. But after Columbine, everybody was saying we can't do it that way anymore. You can't do it that way. Lieutenant and I reached out to some fellow law enforcement officers of ours and asked them to give us some help in that area. And I hate to say it, but they said, no, it's got to be a SWAT operation. We're not going to teach you how to do that. So luckily, the U.S. Attorney's Office, we're trained in the alert system, which is out of Texas. They called us. It was taught in the Northern District. We had free slots. They called us and said, hey, who are you going to send? So we sent Lieutenant Parker up there for a week. Great training. He comes back. We've sent him to other training since then so he could keep current and find out what works best and bring it back to us. When he got back, we trained with the other agencies in the county, because everybody's going to be coming, and we'll talk about that in a little bit later. Tracy put this together so you could look at it. The most recent ones, the theater in 2012, malls and shopping centers, there's the dates, I'm not going to read them to you. Houses of worship, military bases and recruiting centers, nightclubs, polling places, convention centers. We're just dealing with the place at work here, but hopefully you'll leave here with an awareness that wherever you are, this could happen. Okay? Wherever you are, this could happen. So if you're in church, and I know it's sad, but I know that where Tracy goes to church at, the church up the road from me, they have guys that volunteer to be security now at churches. So you need to be aware of that. All right, an active shooter situation evolves quickly and may even end before law enforcement arrives. You see a lot of them, they kill themselves. When they hear the sirens coming, they kill themselves because they know there's armed men coming or armed officers coming. You need to be aware of your surroundings, and we teach this in law enforcement, and we use a color code system. But everywhere you go, you need to have knowledge of your physical environment and location. Okay? And I know you don't do it, and if you do, I'm glad. But I know at least three other people in this room do it. When I walk into a restaurant, I look at every exit. I try to sit close. I try to keep my back to a wall. I know, paranoia, but, it's just a habit. And it's good. So I see those exits when I'm sitting there. I know where I'm going to go, hopefully go. You need to conduct a risk assessment. Potential vulnerabilities or uniqueness of your environment, which may pose additional challenges to first responders. If you're a teacher, if you're a professor, you're administrative assistant, you're sitting in your office, you need to know how to get out of there the quickest way. You need to learn that environment and leverage available resources. And when we say that, if you're in your office, lock the door, stick a chair in the door, hide, put your phone on vibrate, call 911, or call us. But if you do call 911, and Lieutenant Parker pointed this out to Tracy and I just now, if you call them, make sure you tell them you're at Marshall, and make sure you tell them where you're at. Okay, if you call my dispatch and say, hey, I'm in Jenkins, we know where you're at. You call 911, you may get a 911 dispatcher that lives in another county, and we constantly fight the battle with them on our property and their property. But we're all interoperable, so when they get that call, they're going to be calling us on our radios and letting us know also. So tell them exactly where you are and what's going on, please. Everyone's priority is to protect themselves. We can't do it for you. I mean, that's hard to say. It's not like a fire drill where Tracy's going to get up here and say, hey, you exit, you go down the stair when you leave. You have to decide what you're going to do, and that goes back to personal responsibility. We're on our way once you make that phone call, but most of these situations are over in less than 5 minutes. 5 minutes. So, they come in, do the damage, either kill themselves or they're neutralized by law enforcement. So you need to keep that in mind. You have to have a plan, whether you're going to stay, whether you're going to go. And if you do stay and you barricade, you stay there until law enforcement comes and identifies themselves. And you're not going to know them, okay? You're not going to know if you get lucky, it'll be one of the guys you do know, maybe me, maybe Lieutenant Parker. But it could be an outside agency. So wait till they identify themselves before you open that door. Run, that's get out of the situation. If you're outside, get away. Hide. If you can't run, you barricade yourself or hide. Last but not least is fight. And Tracy can talk about what Brim's doing. We've been working with Brim trying to get them to come down and teach this course that they do. But if you're in a room and we keep hearing that the doors open out, it doesn't matter. Stack chairs in front of it. They still can't get in. If they do get in, the fight option, you have to decide, and that's what this Brim class is. And there's an Alice training that does the same thing. But somebody in that room has to take charge and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. You're going to throw chairs against the door. You're going to grab that chair. You're going to grab that fire extinguisher. When we comes through, we're three going to jump him. You're going to beat him half to death with that fire extinguisher. Okay? Somebody has to take charge and do it. We all learned it in our psych classes. Somebody's down on the ground, unless you look up and say, call 911, nobody's going to do it. They're going to keep walking by that person. So that's the thing. When we said it's personal responsibility, you have to take charge of this. So that's the fight option. Evacuation based on circumstance, location of shooter, and whether it can be accomplished safety. You get away from it. You get away. If safe, evacuate the emergency evacuation assembly area for accounting of staff, faculty, and students. And we'll put that out when it happens, because we have to account for you. Since 9/11, Tracy and I and Lieutenant Parker all know this. We used to have designated collection points for people to go to if we had an incident, say at the stadium. We told you where to go and come back. Well, since terrorism is such a threat now, we can't do that, because having an event here, secondary devices could be at the place we're telling you to go to safety, and once you get there, they let those things go, or they drive a semi-truck through you. So we can't tell you that until it happens. So we'll get the text alert out so you'll have it. If possible, work as a team by having someone watch for the shooter while evacuating as many individuals out windows, ground floor as calmly and quietly and safely as possible. Okay? At this point, I should probably tell you, well, no, we'll go a little further. Hide. Secure the immediate area. We already talked about that. Keep yourself out of sight and adequate cover or protection. You have concealment and you have cover. Cover something that'll stop a bullet. Okay, you need to think about that. But most things won't. The concealment just keeps you hid from them. Turn off devices that emit sound. Just put your phone on vibrate. or silence even, because you're going to be calling. And if you can't get through, because we all know that if there's a mass emergency or a natural disaster, our phones don't work. You're just going to have to keep trying or get to a landline. Avoid trapping yourself, restricting your options for movement. And that may not happen, because some of our buildings, you go into a room, there's no other way out of it. So you're going to have to barricade that door. He may bang on the door, yell, entice you to open, stay in there. Don't respond until you hear it's law enforcement. And wait for the all clear message from authorities. If you're not on our text alert system, you need to get on it. The communication staff does a great job. I mean, they get that stuff out there and they roll with it. So that's the way we'll be communicating with you, all three. So if you've not opted into the text alert, you need to do that so you can get it. The fight, and we talked about this briefly. Attempt to take the shooter down, close range. Chance of survival is much greater if you incapacitate him or her. Commit to the action, do not falter. Attempt to disrupt, act as aggressively as possible. Throw items, improvise weapon, act as a team. Do whatever is necessary to neutralize the situation. It may save your own life. So that's why when I got up here and said it's personal responsibility, you have to decide what you're going to do here. Okay, we can't tell you what you're going to do. You have to decide what you're going to do. And last but not least, if it is an active shooter and you do take him down, do not pick that weapon up and stand there with it. Because when we come, and we'll talk about what we're going to do in a little bit, you're standing there with a gun, that's not a really good idea. Put it on the floor, put a trash can over it, set on it, do whatever you have to do. But just don't be standing there lollygagging with it. Because whoever comes through that door, you're the threat at that point in time. When you're told to evacuate, remain calm and follow officers' instructions. Put down any items in your hands. Raise hands, spread fingers, keep hands visible at all times. Don't do any quick movements or come running at us. Avoid pointing, screaming, or yelling. Do not stop and ask us questions. You're just going to get out of there. Tell us where the shooter is. We're going to be asking that. Where is he? Where is he? And you're going to be pointing. We're telling you to go. Last and not least on that, and this is, it's not to scare you, it's just the awful truth. And Lieutenant Parker, he'll tell you we had a real hard time with this. If we come in the building and you're wounded or hurt and you're down, we're not stopping to help you. We're stepping over you and we're going. We're going to ask you where he is, and you're going to point down the hall and tell us. We'll get to you as soon as we can, but we can't stop and help you. And I know that's cold and it's callous and it goes against everything we were trained to do. But, our job is to identify, contain, and neutralize. And we can't do that if we're treating you or getting you help. We'll come back once we have it and we feel it's good, then we start evacuating. But I just want everybody to know that up front. And that was the hardest thing that we had to deal with when he come back and did that. And when he tells us that, we're all like, whoa, wait a minute. He goes, no, you got to go. You can't stop. When it's safe and secure, call 911. Give us the location, street address, everything that's on there. We already talked about this because Lieutenant reminded me. But give them as much description as you can and tell them the building and floor you're on, because 911's not going to know. Okay? It's possible to say, meet the first arriving units outside and tell him what has happened. Go ahead. We talked about this. Primary is eliminate the threat. Secondary is protecting the lives of those in the building, protecting the lives of officers, protecting the lives of suspect, not allowing suspect to escape, not allowing individuals to enter the area and containing the situation. That's what we're going to try to be doing. And when I say we, it's not just going to be us, because we've done it too. We've geared up to go somewhere else when they've put out a call that they have a person with a gun or whatever. I mean, we're standing in our parking lot with our stuff ready to go, and they give us an all clear. It'll be officers from every agency in the county and possibly outside, because they're going to keep coming. They're going to keep coming until we tell them it's over, and they're still going to keep coming. There's that we'll work with. And we talked about the alert right there. So we have that. As of, where's Dale? Safety Committee and Mr. Osborne's been trying to make sure we did assessment of campus. And Tracy can talk about that. But all your doors are lockable now if you're faculty or an employee. If you need keys for your area, there's key requests in the back. And here's that personal responsibility thing again. If you lock your classroom and the person before you locks it, you're going to need a key to get in there. I don't have the manpower to come and unlock all your doors. It's not going to happen. So your administrative assistant will have a key box. You can go and get the key from that and get into your room and your office space. And there's going to be some bumps in the road, but we'll work those out once we get it rolling. Okay?
Um, as you guys exit, we have updated our emergency flip charts. Some of you probably remember these from a few years ago. We've gone through, added made a couple changes to the types of emergency situations and the proper responses to make sure that you guys get those on your way out. And if you need extra copies, you can notify me, and we'll make sure that we get these to everyone on campus. And it's good to keep this on your desk and refer to it, every now and then to kind of refresh your memory. With that said, does anybody have any questions? Okay. Yes.
Well, hopefully we're going to fix that for you. We're working on putting card swipes on the outside of the buildings. That's that one. That's what we're talking about, the bumps in the road. Because that came up, where's Dale at? That came up in the meeting, and Dale's going to figure that out.
What we've done to address that situation is that every office, every central academic unit office will have a key box that will open all the doors in that building. Just like, for example, you're based out of Corbally, you may be teaching in another office. We're working logistics to say the keys are going to be located in this space in Harris Hall and this space in Smith Hall, and it's going to take it, like Jim said, there are going to be bumps in the road and a learning curve to work those things out. But we've got the pieces in place, and we're going to roll this out, I believe, February 1st, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. Yes, that will happen. That will happen. And that's the thing, that all the classrooms that require a key to lock or unlock will be defaulted to lock. And the plan is you go in to teach class, shut the door, open it. But yes, it's going to happen that someone's going to come in, shut the door, and we're going to have to get keys. Yes. Which classroom is that? Is it just one of those that has the button that defaults it to lock that you have to have a key to open? Yeah. Right. Yep. We'll double check that for you. Other questions? They'll be defaulted to lock.
They're using existing hardware, so we don't have to replace it. When I taught in Harris, I locked my door, not for active shooter, for people who were late. They got to sit in the hallway. Yeah, I was nasty. But it's your choice whether you lock your door. And everybody we've talked to, they wanted the doors locked. And some people aren't going to lock their door. They're not even going to close it. But with existing hardware we have in place, and Dale, you correct me, and Travis, y'all jump in here anytime. Instead of spending $1 million to put new locks in everywhere, which is probably a low estimate, they're working with what they have.
My other question is, once you get out of a building, even though our inclination is to
Yes, he asked where they should go. You need to get away. I mean, you'll see the cars get out past the law enforcement and the fire and EMS, and then you probably will gather. And at that point in time, hopefully, whoever is the incident commander is sending out, getting a hold of communication, getting those text alerts out, and saying, hey, you know, it's all clear. We'd like for you to gather at the student center so we can check, make sure, because we're going to have witness statements. We're going to have to find people. Plus, we're checking for your safety also at that point in time. So, you know, we're working with what we got. We're not going to tell you, if you're in Smith Hall, to run across the street and go down to the Quickie Lubin stand, because everybody's going to read that. It's not going to happen. No. And the best thing is to go away. You know, my greatest fear, and we're all adults in here, and Lieutenant Parker and the safety guys can back me up. My biggest fear with our text alert system is when we send out that text and say, do not come to Harris Hall, there's going to be people read that and say, hey, let's go see what's happening at Harris. And we had a science building fire several years ago. Said, you know, science building fire, stay away. All kinds of people outside wanting to come see the science building burn. You know, and we told you to stay away. Ask you to stay away. Didn't tell you, ask you. So that's the fear with the text alert, and we always talk about that. But it's going to be short and blunt. And I know they have templates for it, but it's going to be active shooter here, evacuate south. I mean, we'll give you as much as we can, but the way it works, and you know, I just told you what we're going to do. We get the call, we're rolling there. We're trained up to go in as a two-man unit. You know, if it's a one-man person, he's there, he can go, but that's his call, and it's frowned upon. We'll always go in as two. The biggest element we'll go in is 5. Is that right? 5. That's the biggest element we'll go in as. So if we do have an event, it's not just going to be that building, because they're going to tell us that there's a second shooter or a third, which there could be, hopefully not. Hopefully it never happens. But once we get that area secure, then we're going to have to search all of it to make sure. So you're going to be pushed out. And the lieutenant's been on me, you know, we need to push something out to tell you, you know, we're going to tell you law enforcement, you know, slide a card under, show an ID, or just tell you to come out. We're there, because you're going to get the text alert that tells you it's all clear. All of us aren't going to be dressed like this. You know, it's a good chance I'll be in a pair of khakis and a polo with a vest on. I mean, that's it, depending on who. There's going to be guys coming from their houses that just got jeans on and stuff. They're just coming. So that's our biggest fear. And when I talked earlier about if you do decide to fight and you take the weapon, don't be standing there with it, because we're going to come in and all we're going to see is that weapon, and that's not going to be good, and that's bad. And I say that I'm not trying to scare you, but when we sit around in training sessions and talk, we're trying to figure out how we're going to identify each other. I was in a suit one day, and they called about, we were talking about having an incident at a high school. Well, if I get out of my car and I reach in and get my rifle and I'm running across the parking lot in a suit and another officer arrives, guess what he's going to do? He's going to shoot me. And we talk about it, and we talk about it, and we talk about how we're going to identify. You know, we can't do color of the day. We can't do any of that stuff because we're not having roll call with every agency that morning. So it's a question for us. And, you know, what are we going to do? We talk about it in training. We talk about it at the mall. If we're carrying a weapon, what are we going to do? Because they're telling us now to always have our badge with us, wearing it around our neck, and la la la. Well, I've been here a little while, and another agency's probably transferred over 50% of their officers in the last 7 years. I don't know some of them guys, and I know they definitely don't know me. So they're going to see an old man with a gun, and they're going to drop me like a rock, you know. And it's just we're trying to figure out this stuff. If you're concealed, and that's why I don't want concealed weapons on this campus, because you as an average citizen or someone else that engages him, and that's the argument, well, we can put an end to this. Well, when we arrive and there's a guy standing there with a weapon pointing it, and we're like, hey, drop it, and he turns on us with that, yeah, he's a hero 1 minute, he stopped the incident, and then, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be the one that has to hit an innocent person. So that's why I don't want weapons on campus, So we just need to all keep that in mind. And we talk about it all the time. Yes, sir? Right. His question is, why shouldn't they be armed? Yeah. Well, it's a different environment, and it's apples and oranges. I mean, that's a personal opinion. But I sat in this same room with the Second Amendment Foundation, and flat told them, if you got your permit, we're not going to get into it. If you went to the range every 3 months, I don't know what your background, your training is. I don't know. But in the great state of West Virginia now, anybody can walk in a gun store, buy a gun, put it on, never even go to the range, and carry that thing around with them. This is my other fear, and not law-abiding citizens, I don't care. I'll flat tell you that. I don't care. I'm a gun owner. I'm there. But it's all cool to carry a gun. Everybody wants to carry a gun until you carry that damn thing. And then you got to dress for it. And then you're carrying it around and it's in the way. So then you put it in a bag. And then you set the bag down and somebody steals your bag. So now you've lost your gun because you got tired of carrying it. You're out there working, riding it, picking up, doing things. You're going to get sick of it. I'll flat tell you. And it's just not a good idea. I mean, that's just my opinion. You can have your personal opinion. And that's what I told the Second Amendment people. That's what I tell anybody. Lieutenant Parker's our firearms instructor. He takes us out, he drills us. If we don't meet minimums, he writes me a letter and we take the officer's weapon from them until they do meet minimums. If you can't qualify with our long guns, you don't carry a long gun. You can't deploy it because we're accountable for every one of those bullets. And you as an employee, hate it, we do have an incident, or you perceive an incident and you draw that weapon and fire it and you hit an innocent person, you're liable, the university's liable, everybody's liable. So, and everybody thinks it's cool, but if you are in a shooting, you're still going to get put in a car, you're still going to get interviewed, you may get to leave the police station. They're going to take it to a grand jury, and a grand jury is going to decide whether you were justified or not. If they decide you're not justified, then it's going to cost you about $30,000 to defend yourself or more. So that's things you got to think about. We're talking active shooter. We're going to come, and I'm giving you the downside of that because I know there's people carrying weapons here, and y'all know it too. But, if we catch it, we have to ask you to leave. You refuse, you're gone. That's what state law says. We're going to take you into custody. So, and I don't think anybody in here, and I know the body of the university doesn't want it because I know that. So, I mean, that's to answer your question. It's just not right. We're all certified. We shoot 4 times a year or more. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I don't know your training level. I don't know anything. That's why I quit doing it in classrooms because I started picking out Iraqi war vets. But you got to think to the lowest common denominator. And we all think shooting's a depreciable skill. And I understand what you're saying. But it's on, you may feel competent, but if you draw it out, if you have never fired a shot in anger, which I don't know if you have, I don't know if you've ever been shot at. So, that's those things. That's a personal opinion. But me standing up here as an administrator and the chief of police of Marshall University, I'm going to fight it to the bitter end. That's like arming school teachers. Never mind. But, just what I said. And I've been in meetings, and lieutenant's heard it. He's heard it. We know people are doing it. It doesn't scare me that they're carrying it, but everybody wants to do it. Then they get tired of carrying it. Then it goes in a bag. And hopefully I'm gone before it happens, but you're going to have a student walk in a room who's carrying a very fine firearm. He paid $150 for it at a pawn shop. He's going to have it loaded. He's going to have it in his book bag because he's tired of wearing it on his belt or shoving it in his pants and having to wear clothes to conceal it. He's going to throw that book bag down that chair, and that gun's going to go off. Hopefully it doesn't happen in my tenure, but I can guarantee it's going to happen. The city of Charleston passed that ordinance, and the guy walked right in, dropped the gun on a swimming pool deck, and it went off at a swim meet because he was allowed to carry it, and he dropped in there and dropped out of his sweatpants. You know, there's more considerations than just carrying a gun and defending yourself.
I'm just here to learn, and I'm not here. You get to make the rules,
I don't get to make the rules. I get to make suggestions.
but I want you to discuss the. Professor, do I throw a magic marker at this kind of gun or an eraser? That's all I have.
No, but
Yeah. My question is, that hard to cast people as a deficit. Same as you are. How do you justify that inconsistency? Trying to learn, and I can.
Well, we're more than glad to sit down and talk to you. What I said, it's over in 5 minutes. Our average response time to any in-progress call on campus from my department is less than 2 minutes. Okay? That's less than 2 minutes. Because we're right here. We're not having to drive. You know, if you live in the county and you call for 911, he could be on the other side. It's going to be 20 minutes.
I guarantee you, if we did, I'm teaching 376 in the science building. I would almost guarantee you, but I haven't done the research. If as fast as you can,
I said average. 2 minutes. And we're coming. You know, well, we can do that.
you know, when the run or the height of the runner only has
Right.
blocks from the outside. And so, as far as we know, that
Yes. Yeah, there'll be a location on the text, just like there always is. You know, active shooter Terry Hall, you know, so you know whether to barricade or leave your area, okay? And we won't know any more until we get there, until we get the information coming in. And, you know, you're talking about the inconsistent, there we go again. We can't tell you, we can have a drill all day long. I hate drills because everybody knows what's going to happen because you set it up beforehand and you know what's going to happen. All right, you're the shooter. So you're going to come in this building and, you know, it's planned out. Am I wrong? It's all planned out. I mean, we've been in national, you know, other kind of drills and it's like, okay, the gas pipe's going to explode at 10 o'clock. You know, and I'm not saying drills aren't, you know, when he drills us and we go to the range, we're doing things. I mean, that's us for when it comes to time. Hopefully never does. You know, we can do a drill. This is what this is for, to get you thinking about it. But we can't do a drill that incorporates all 2,000 people here. You know, if we do one, it'll be a building or it'll be a section. And you have to make that. And I understand totally what you're saying. But there again, law does not allow for us to say, okay, we're going to take A, B, and C professor and give you a gun and say you know, it's not like our fire alarm guys who do the floors for us. This is a whole different beast. So, I mean, I understand what you're asking me. You know, we're going to get there. We're going to do the best we can. Everybody else is coming. But that's why we told you it's your choice. And that text message will tell you, active shooter, Terry Hall, stay where you're at. You know, updates coming or whatever. You lock yourself in your office. Or you may choose to go pick up your briefcase and hump out to your car and go home for the rest of the day. But that's your choice because you know not to come to Terry Hall now. So there'll be directions in there. Yeah, I mean, pepper spray's not illegal. It's not illegal to have at the university. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, she asked about pepper spray. Yeah, but there again, you got to have the moxie to use it. You're not going to point it at somebody and say, I'm going to spray you. You know, the only reason we yell spray or pepper spray is to let the other guys get out of the way. And you ask if it's debilitating. It makes me sick for over 12 hours. And it's the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. And I've been tasered. He's beat me up. I haven't been shot yet, but I've been tasered and pepper spray, and pepper spray's devastating. I mean, but then again, you got to have the moxie to use it. You can't pull it out and say, I'm going to spray you or I'm going to shoot you. I'm sorry. You have to get the glands, the eyes, and it's a skin irritant, but they have to breathe. It attacks the mucus glands and causes the involuntary your eyes to shut and all this ugly stuff. Yeah, but you got to get it. They have to breathe it. You have to get it in or get it on. But if you spray on the forehead, well, we do it. You can spray on the forehead and it runs down into your eyes and it hurts. It's bad. Yep. I mean, you can have anything. You can't have a firearm. Oh, I'm sorry. She asked if you could have a taser. Yes, you can have a taser. You can have the only thing illegal on this campus is a firearm. But then again, and when you say taser, I hope you mean taser and don't mean a stun gun where they got to get close to you. There again, that's your choice. You have to have that drive to use that. Okay, and that's what that's why we're here, for this awareness. So give you time to think about this stuff. My ex-wife, God love her, she always wanted to do this stuff, and she went to a training class one time. The guy walked up and told her he was going to do it. Walked up and grabbed her. She hyperventilated and passed out. So she didn't have the moxie to do that. I bought her pepper spray. She worked at a law firm. Keychain pepper spray. Swore to me she was going to have it on her keychain every night when she walked from her law office to the parking garage. That lasted about a month. Then when I looked at her one time, I said, I was driving her car, and her pepper spray wasn't on her keys. And I said, where's your pepper spray? Oh, yeah, my purse. So what happened to being in your hand? Oh, I got tired. So this is what we're making you think about. She's asking what your responsibility is, and I can't give you an answer. Because you're right, you're not high school teachers, you're not in loco parentis, and they're there. But I can guarantee you this, that student's going to get that text alert for you before you do. That's right. And you're going to be looking at them when they all do. Out the door. I mean, I can't answer that for you. Right. Correct. Right. But it's for the masses. I mean, it's not just you're saving yourself, because you're going to look at them and say, let's go. And that's what I said earlier. That's the whole concept behind run, hide, and fight. Somebody's got to take charge. And you're not going to have that. You got sheep and you got sheepdogs. So somebody's going to have to take the lead and direct them. And that falls back on you. We can't stand up here and teach you that ethos and say, well, I'm going to stand here till all my kids are gone, or I'm going to stand here and hold this door. I mean, we're not going to leave anybody. And I hate to say that, but I'm not going to leave anybody. I'm not going to leave another policeman. That's what we're doing. But even if, Lieutenant Parker taught, I wouldn't bust out of the room either. I'm going to look at my kids and say, come on, guys, let's go, 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 run. But if you're the last one out, you've done what you can. But there again, I mean, I can't answer that for you. We're telling you what our best practice is. I'm not going to tell you to go stand in an open field. A lot of the kids are going to go home. They're going to be running to the house. A lot of them, and this is experience also, a lot of them are going to call their parents or get on Facebook before they call 911 and say, hey, we got somebody doing this. And 99% of the time, until you get the alert or you're not going to know what's happened till you make that identification. So I can't answer that. I mean, can you answer? It's never came up. Right. Right. Well.
Yes, ma'am.
I so don't want to speak on this campus. It scares the crap out of me. I'm afraid of already. That how it was.
All right, she's asking, and it's a wonderful question because I forgot to tell y'all. And we talked to the deans 2 weeks ago. If you have a student you think's having trouble, you need to reach out to Cedric's office, Cedric Gattering's office, Student Affairs. Let them know. We have great counselors. They'll talk to the students and get that to us. At least get them on our radar, because we will do we will listen to you. And if we feel there's something there, we'll do a threat assessment. And when I say that, we'll run them. We'll run them for criminal history. We'll check and see if they got any violence in their background, things of that nature, as far as we can. Now, if the kid just yells at you, you're going to have to give us a little bit more. You have to give us the reason why you're fearful of him. But you reach out to Lisa Martin's office, Cedric's office. You let those folks know. Or, I know you don't want to do this, but you're talking to them and they're free. You may need to go see a counselor, and you walk them over there and take them to the counselor. There's counselors on call 24 hours a day. You just have to call our office. We'll get a counselor out to you. They're on 24 hours a day. And we all know, at least the professors, teachers sitting in here, that we're seeing a lot more kids who are a lot on medication, and they're here. I mean, it's documented in the paperwork. So, yeah, that's your answer. I mean, you need to let us know. Whether it's just and you may be having the same problem somebody else is. So, Cedric's, the Student Affairs needs to know, because it's just like law enforcement. If we're having problems with somebody on this, or even in our own department, if we're having problems with somebody on day shift and then evening shift lets us know they've done something, we got a problem. And I know political science and math could be having the same problem, but you're not going to talk to each other. But the central gathering point is Student Affairs for all that information to go to. All of that to go to is there. I'll in the back. Then I'll get you, then you. She's asking, some buildings have private. The res halls have everybody. Their folks are there. They're just a call. The only building that has an officer is the biotech. And to be honest, I don't know how much longer he's going to be there. But he's there in the biotech to check people because of the nature of the research and stuff they do in there. They're ID checkers. And be careful. I'm getting old. I'm having trouble walking now, too. This is a young man's game. Hang on, Chris. Sir?
Yeah, do you have any recommendations about cell phone policy in class?
Okay. No, sir. No, it's not funny at all, because I'm going to tell you exactly, because when I was teaching, I'm old enough the pagers were there. And if their pager went off, I took a letter grade from them. And then when they all started carrying cell phones, I did the same thing. If your cell phone interrupts class, that's one letter grade. I can't answer that. With the proliferation of media, parents suing school systems because their kid can't take their phone to class with them, I understand what you're saying. My mentor, we had a text alert one day, and he didn't know it because his phone was in his office because he was teaching, but the kids in the room started doing it. And he looked at them and said, "What's going on?" And they said, "Well, we got this going on," because his phone was in there. And that's dialogue we can talk about. I mean, it's your classroom. I mean, I won't teach you I won't tell you how to control your own classroom. Unless you're telling them to turn them off, I say every kid in the room's got his cell phone on. Yeah. Yeah, I understand. I understand. I can't answer that. That's. Yeah, I don't know what the best practice, Lieutenant.
Who doesn't have it? And I taught in the criminal justice. I'm going to guarantee you right now, you have a to record, to just to function in life. They're using a laptop. I think, I don't know if you can hear me or not. The biggest part that you can do, you talk about liability, just be responsible. Take responsibility for that action, what goes on in that class. He said something in the very beginning, have a plan. Does anybody know how many doors are in this room right now? 4. How many can you secure from the inside of this room? 3. What would it take to secure 3 doors inside of this room? Anybody know? Your belt, a book bag strap. Who has a weapon on in this room? You have a weapon on, sir. Have a pen. You're sitting on a chair. Who's got a pop bottle? You got a pop bottle? You're wearing a shirt? You put the pop bottle inside the shirt and you use it as a sling. You have weapons. You have to come outside the box. You have to start thinking outside the box. He said have a plan. You have a plan. Or you plan to fail. It doesn't make any difference, but you have a plan. You talked about securing a door in your room. You have items in your room. I can secure that door right now with a pin. I can jam that lock and secure that door. That door cannot open. Has anybody seen any of the pictures? I'll get to you in just a second. Anybody seen any of the pictures from Ohio State? They took about 40 chairs and stacked them upside of a door. If I'm an active shooter, 3 to 5 minutes. I know. At Virginia Tech, police officers were standing outside the residence, the academic building, when he started shooting. He locked the doors with chains. They breached with shotguns. The minute they breached with shotguns, he shot and killed himself. He was in there 3 minutes. By the time they got to him. He did that amount of damage. You're asking about how fast can we get there? You're right. I don't think we're going to get there in 2 minutes. Because you're going to call and hang up, and it's going to take my dispatcher 30 seconds to process. What's going on? Who do I need to go? Where do I need to go? Send people. We're making that radio traffic. That's just I'm on my way. I'm coming. It's going to take me 30 seconds.
2 thoughts, 1 thought.
Okay?
But I teach you black.
I'm sure that in today's state. Yeah. I haven't seen it. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about exactly, but I would say that yes, I understand what you're talking about there. The thing about that is those are all personal items that you have to purchase. Okay? So who is going to maintain that? Are they going to stay in that room? Will they be in that room 6 months from now? Yeah, there's all. Good question. It's You know, it's all about. It's not a fire drill. And I have talked to people. I have interviewed people, and I have first responders, victims, and actually I sat through an interview of a suspect that survived an active shooter when I was at the National Academy. And he told me there's three things. This is going to be fast, this is going to be violent, and that the uncertainty is going to be outstanding. So to train you on what you're asking to do, I'm just going to tell you, survive.
That's like what you're saying right now is let's stay this late. We're going to train you. Train us. Train us.
Okay.
Very commercial.
Does your room have a glass window over the door? Okay, so you could take something and block the window, or you could hide somewhere in the room that they could not see you. Can you move anywhere in the room and not see the window? That's your hide. You know, there is no scenario. I can what if this to death. There is no scenario that will ever be the same. What they did at Columbine, to Virginia Tech, to New York City, anywhere you want to talk about, none of those things will be the same. All I can say is whatever it is for you, to make you the safest that you can be safe. Whatever you feel safe. If you need to hide behind that wall so when he comes through, you say you can't hit him with anything, then you got two fists. Or you have your shoe. Or you have something. Because a group of people is a lot more powerful than one person. Because it will be for your life is what you're fighting for. Okay? Our goal is that if you can get away before you have to fight, that is the best course of action. And to be, as like the chief said, when you make it to your stop spot, wherever that stop spot is, one guy can go out the door. Fight or flight does a lot of things to a person. You think he only ran a block, and surveys have shown he's 2 miles from where he started before the adrenaline in his body got him to slow down and stop and take a deep breath. He is gone. So for me to say, we need to go 3 blocks and have a regroup. Go wherever you need to go to feel safe, and then call somebody and tell them. Okay? Anybody see the shootout at the airport? Fort Lauderdale Airport. Somebody took cover behind a baggage cart that has a big the handle's on it's probably about 1.5 inches. They thought they were safe. They took refuge behind. If that's what they want to do, that's fine. Sometimes laying just flat on the ground is good. I mean, anybody in the military? When the shooting starts, where do they tell you to get? Get on the ground. Okay? If that's all you have, then that's all you have. I can't tell you what's the best cover. Look for something solid. It may stop a bullet. Okay? I don't know. What is cover? Cover is something that some type of projectile will not go through. You are physically safe, and you cannot be seen. Concealment is just the opposite. If I hid behind that podium right there, that's concealment. You may not be able to see me, but a bullet will go through that. Okay? And bullets go through drywall. And we teach people to shoot through drywall. So don't think that you're standing I mean, that's just part of it. That's the last place I saw you, that's probably where I'm going to shoot. Again, hide the best that you can, but get away. If you can possibly get away. If an active shooter happened in this downstairs right now, this minute, do you have a plan? That's the only way we all came out, right? One of the ways that I do it, and the chief wouldn't let me do it, we teach active shooter. We put a bunch of police officers in a room, and I come in when he's asking for your attention. I cap off 3 rounds with toy guns, and I go, now make it work. What am I looking for? Who's got the mindset? Who's got the processing? That goes some of it to training, but some of it also goes to just natural instinct. What am I going to do? Okay? Somebody comes through these doors right here, right now, out that way. Anybody look? There's the exit sign. You got 2 doors, and then you're out the back steps, and you're out of the building. Okay? And then wherever you go, you go. Pay attention to your surroundings. Know what's going on around you at all times. You talk about students getting upset. You can sit in your class, and all your instructors have sit there, because I have sat there, and I have seen when people are getting agitated. I can tell when I am touching a nerve, especially when I'm on a topic or doing something, or they're just having a bad day. I can tell. A little bit of preventive talking to them. You okay? No, you're not okay? You know what? Maybe we're just cutting class short today. Or maybe I'm going to take you to a counselor. Or maybe I'm going to do something to make I don't feel safe. Now, and we tell these people when we go and we teach self-defense classes, the most important instinct you got in your whole body is trust your gut. Because it's not wrong. When your body says, hey, there's something wrong here and I'm in danger, guess what? Usually are. And you go on and do it. Thing. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, on that note, I have an instinct about a student who's no
Talk to me after class. Or after this. It's still a crime. It's still an active crime, and we got to figure out. Yeah, come talk to us after we're done with it. If they are threatening in nature, as far as threatening your personal safety, or if it's just harassment.
Well, she said about notifying outside agencies. That's one of the things, if you've read the Virginia Tech report, that's one of the things nobody was talking to each other. You know, and it's been a while since that happened, but I sat on panel discussions and everything else, and if you read the Virginia Tech report, there was red flags all over this guy, and nobody talked to each other. One professor let him come in, and they taught him by himself because he made the rest of the class uneasy. I don't think there's not one teacher or professor in here that would do that, but they did that for that kid. You know, his counselor tried to talk him out of going to Virginia Tech. They wanted him to go to a community college. But if we have a threat in this environment, you're Skippy that we're calling, letting somebody at HPD know, or wherever that kid lives, we're calling them and saying, hey, just a heads up. You know, Jim Terry's freaking out. You know, to tell him what we do know. But yeah, you need to come and see the lieutenant after this. Yeah. Oh, I'd use you for cover. I'd get them moving, get them out of there. Hey, hang on. Yes, ma'am. Okay, you've just brought up what hasn't happened in a while with active shooters. Once it goes into that situation, then it's a hostage situation, and then we back off. You negotiate. I mean, that you've changed that. You've changed that. That you've changed the whole scenario. We've only talked, but that's true. That's something you got to prepare for, and we do too. Because if you're barricaded in there and he's not shooting anymore, and he says, "Hey, I got hostages," then we back off, and that's when SWAT comes in, sets perimeter, and does their thing. Well, I can't tell you that because if you're a hostage, that's on you. We go back to that. That's on you again. I mean, you wait for that. TV makes it look really easy, but I mean, I've never been a hostage. I've been shot at. I've been tried to hit with a car. I mean, I can tell you about those things and tell you what to do, but I've never been a hostage. Well, I was. That's why I got an ex-wife. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we can discuss it. Well, that's for lightning, yeah. It's the same concept. West Virginia State, she's asking about an audible alarm outside. West Virginia State has one for chemical emergencies. Yeah, it's an option. But then you have, that's on the policy side for us to make that decision of what you do. But yeah, it's an option. Hey, we're going to show you how to sign up for the text alert and the email alerts.
So I'm Crystal Stewart. I work in IT. I'm the senior office administrator. Everybody who is faculty, staff, or students should have access to MyMU. You can get there. I have a big voice. I'm all right. You can get there on the main Marshall page by going to MyMU, and you'll log in there with your username, your ImmuNet username and password. Is there anybody in here who does not know how to do that? Once you're logged in, on the left, on the quick launch pad, you click on that. This is opt-in, okay? So if you don't know about ImmuAlert is something you have to opt into. You're not automatically signed up for it. So you go in there, you accept the user agreement. And 2 email addresses, so if you want to put in text message, you can put in your telephone number. If you want to put in your home phone, it will call your home phone and leave a message. Well, when I do orientation with students, they're always like, my mom wants to know if she can sign up for this. That's where I suggest using one of those numbers if the parent wants an alert. We are running a test on Wednesday. If you are not subscribed, you need to subscribe and or at least go in and make sure your information is up to date in there by tomorrow at 5 o'clock. And then you should get an alert of the test by Wednesday at noon. If you do not, then please contact either our security office or the IT service desk. If you have any issues signing up, please contact our IT service desk at marshall.edu or visit us in the Drinko Library on the first. South Charleston has a service desk. Got a question? It is 304-696-HELP. Done unless anybody has any questions.
All right, guys, it's after 8. I know you got to get back. 8 minutes after 1, I know you got to get back to work. Tracy and I just saw that we left something out here. If you had any questions, please just email me. Mine's real easy. It's just terry@marshall.edu. We'll get back to you. Where did Lieutenant go? I think you can look him up. It's Parker J. And we're going to add it to this presentation. We knew we left something out. So please, you can send it to us if you have any suggestions. Thank you for your input because you've gave us some things to think about that we didn't think about. Thank you for coming. And on the back is the flip charts, and there's key request forms back there also.